opening the door. Be here before the door is shut.
That's cool. That's not cool.
Alright? So, if you know you're going to be late, or if you have a class that overlaps and it's difficult getting here, remind me so that I can make a plan for that. Alright? But this walking in 20 minutes late is going to stop. I am done with this. Alright? So, as of Monday, the door will stay shut once it's shut. So, since half the class are not here at 11:05, those of you who are here might want to let them know if you're feeling friendly. Alright? Number 2 announcement. Next week, Wednesday, is the Student Research Conference. Classes are cancelled from 8 till 4. So to make life easy for us all, we will not have the playground next week at all. Since I can't have it on Wednesday, we're not going to have the playground. That's on the syllabus, but since we're a little challenged with checking the syllabus, I'm just reminding you that you do not have to get out of bed early and be at the playground for 8:45. Okay? All right. Next bit.
Miss, may I borrow a pencil, please?
Matthew, when are you going to bring a pen to class?
Got 2 minutes.
Is that a lot to ask?
Really, I wasn't even thinking about that. I'm so wound up out of the snow.
What? How are you going to take notes or learn if you don't bring a pen? And
So you said Monday, the latest gonna stop?
yes,
That was the announcement was?
done.
Done with it.
All right, question number 1, new chapter. Question number 1. What type of constraint, so if I'm looking at my triangle model, what type of constraint does this chapter talk about?
Chapter 12?
What type of constraint on my triangle model does this chapter talk about? Adeline, Patrick, Nathan, D, Austin, Daniela, Chivasier, Nick, Johnny, Logan, Jeremy, Emma, Sasha, Miguel, sorry, Brent, Jonah. All right, question number 2. So question number 1, what type of constraint is this chapter talking about? Question number 2, give 1 example of a significant other or socializing agent. Give 1 example. So there's 4 or 5. Give 1 example of a significant other or socializing agent. Alright, make sure your name is on there, hand those in, and let's get started. Okay.
What's that question?
Sorry?
I forgot to say, what's that question?
Name 1 type, give 1 example of a socializing agent or significant other. Okay, so this is one of my favorite chapters. I love this chapter. It's a lot of fun. So, alright, so we're talking about Sociocultural constraints, and that's one of our options when we look at environmental constraints. All right, so we've got sociocultural, we've got the gravity, we've got things that are going on, the weather, right? And if we consider the model and we agree with the idea of the model suggests that our individual constraints, our environmental constraints, our task constraints interact together to impact the movement behavior that emerges from that interaction. And if I change one of those, then I'm going to see a different type of movement pattern emerge. Right? So when we look at sociocultural constraints, then that might be an odd idea to consider as impacting movement skills. But according to the model, it's going to. What I see happen for an individual depends upon the kinds of sociocultural constraints that are in place for that individual. So what are the attitudes for the group? The group could be your country. The group could be the area of the country, the state you're in. The group can be the town you're in or your family. All right? So what are the attitudes for the group that affect the kinds of behaviors we see someone develop? And those attitudes can encourage certain behaviors. Right? We said constraints can encourage. They can also discourage certain behaviors. All right? And when we look at culturally specific ideas about moving, so the textbook gives you a very nice example that if you grow up in America, is it likely that you would choose to try out sumo wrestling? Right? No, because it's not. If I think about a really great American athlete, is a sumo wrestler what comes to mind? Right? No. So why would you try sumo wrestling? So that's a whole set of motor skills you don't ever even attempt if you grow up in the States, which is okay. It's not a bad thing. It's just a good example of how culture impacts behavior. All right? So in England, in India, in New Zealand, in Pakistan, we learn cricket. If I'm going to hit a ball with a bat, I am playing cricket. Don't get very much cricket in the States. Don't get, to my knowledge, any, but that may have changed over the last few years. I haven't been home much lately. Don't get any baseball in the UK that I'm aware of. Right? I know we've got some basketball growing over in Europe now, but I'm not aware of baseball yet. So bat and ball mean different things to different people and different movement patterns because of that. Okay? And there are other elements, gender, race, religion plays a role. That's a cultural, sociocultural element that can impact motor patterns. Right? If I'm a young lady growing up in certain Muslim countries, I have to wear a burqa. If I leave the house, I'm not allowed any part of my body showing. It's a little hard to run in a burqa, right? So I probably don't run very much, and they have to start wearing burqas. I don't know very much about Muslim society, but I believe they have to start wearing those somewhere around 10, 12 years old. So it's a very limited movement opportunity before they're kind of shut down. And from then on, they're only allowed to move if everybody in the room is female, which may or may not be possible in their society, you know, in their area where they live. So that religion can play a role, oddly, in what we see people do when they're moving. Nationality, as we've already mentioned. So what are the social values of the group? Right? How do we perceive what is appropriate for certain people to do? Right? We also will, I think in the next chapter, we'll look at some ageism ideas. Right? What is it okay for an old person to do versus a young person to do? What is it okay for the boys to do and okay for the girls to do? What's my ideal in my head? What's my ideal that I project to other people? Right? What do I think is okay? So this atmosphere of it's acceptable for you to try that, or it's not acceptable for you to do that, becomes a sociocultural constraint that changes people's choices of movement, right? Plays a large role in the motor behaviors that are adapted by an individual, right? If my parents say, well, that's not really okay for you to try, then am I going to go against my parents and try it anyway, or am I going to do what is expected of me? Kind of depends on your age group, right? But for a large time in our lives, we spend time doing what is suggested it's okay to do, right? We don't like to break the rules very often. So it influences the choices that we might make as adults. So on page 258, the book asks a very good question, okay? And they want you to think about what you personally have experienced. Okay, so what are some of the most important social, cultural elements? So people, places you've lived. We're missing the two people I was going to pick on straight away here because they're different to the rest of you, and of course they're not here. How have these, so what influenced you during your life? So why do you do what you do? Think back. Why do you do what you do?
Because I don't want to be normal.
Because you don't want to be normal.
I don't know if you answered that.
So think about, let's see, why
I feel like
are you a football player?
because I love contact and I love working out.
Who gave you the opportunity? Why did you want to do football?
Why?
Yeah.
Little.
Why?
Why?
Because you get to run on the field and just,
So you were allowed to run on the field?
yeah, just hit people and make stuff up.
Why did you play baseball?
Well, my dad did it, so I wanted to do that.
Okay. So your dad did it. Girls, interesting, because you're really not typical, right? Why do you play sport?
Because that's where I feel the most like myself. I've always had a good interaction with it. I love the building, competition.
Who did you watch when you were young that made you want to give it a try?
I guess my older siblings.
Okay. Okay. So our environment, people, opportunities, create, kind of drive the path that we choose, the movements that we opt for. Okay. If you hadn't had older siblings playing, maybe you wouldn't have chosen to play. So,
Why are you a teacher, miss?
why am I a teacher? My Mum started off as a teacher. My coaches probably were the main influence for why I wanted to coach. And then once you're a coach, you're a teacher. And then when I gave up coaching, I transitioned to teaching.
Why are you a teacher here?
Why am I a teacher
How is
here
Mexico?
in Portales, New Mexico?
Yeah, like how'd you find Portales from?
They advertised the job. And I got it, and so you're stuck with me now.
True.
So, one of the biggest sociocultural influences that we perpetuate in our culture, not deliberately most of the time, right? It's just something that goes on. So this is a very subliminal impact, but it's massive, okay? Is gender typing. So just so we've got our language right, sex is a biological characteristic. Typically, people are born male or female. Not always, but most of the time, people are born male or female, right? Gender is a socially determined characteristic. So it's not genetic, it's social. So I am either a man, masculine, or a woman, feminine. But those two ideas are socially determined, not biologically determined. So we just got to make sure that we use the right language at the right time. And gender identities are learned very young in our culture. And it's possible, there's research that suggests that maybe children are even learning their gender identity as young as 1 year old. Okay? So, how can they learn gender identity at a point at which they're barely even moving? Right? So, have a look at this. Is that a boy's bedroom or a girl's bedroom? Boys.
It could be a girl's.
It could be, but is it likely to be? Could be a girl, right? Okay. So, what about that one? Boys or girls? That's a girl. Okay, you would put a girl in there.
Yeah.
Would you put a boy in there?
Yeah.
Sure.
I would, but, right? Many parents, you wouldn't. Okay, so why? Why would you not put a boy in that bedroom?
Pink is a stereotypical, like a girl's color.
What is his favorite color?
So, socially,
Real men wear pink, right?
I agree, real men wear pink. I think guys look great in pink. Alright, so we make choices for our children that teach them whether they are masculine or feminine. Right? We teach them that role as parents, as preschool teachers. Okay? And this is, from a motor development standpoint, this is a little problematical because we kind of steer children into activities that we think are appropriate based upon whether they're masculine or feminine. Are they males or females? So traditionally, boys are encouraged to take part in sports we perceive as masculine, right? So boys get to have a go at football, or they get to have a go at wrestling, right? So in the West, in Western society, what sports do we consider are appropriate for boys? Right? So if you're a dad and you have a 6-year-old son, and your son says, Dad, I really, really want to take ice skating lessons.
You do your thing, little man.
Well, you know, I really, really hope that that's what you do.
You can't force them to do stuff. It ain't gonna
You should not. We encourage our girls, on the other hand, we don't encourage our girls to take part in wrestling. Right? We encourage our girls to take part in gymnastics or diving, or if they're lucky, track and field or basketball, although that's less likely. All right? Significant others, parents, family, when we're young, peer groups as we get older, tend to suggest to us what is appropriate and what isn't appropriate, right? It's not okay for you to go and wrestle if you're a girl. Right? Well, of course it's okay. It's just we don't think it. We kind of just suggest that it isn't okay. So these pervasive attitudes of what is appropriate based upon being male or female, the problem with this is that it restricts options for children and for adults. Right? Girls were not allowed to run a marathon until 1973, something like that.
And now look who's the best at doing those things.
So girls were not allowed to run a marathon until the 70s because men ran sport and men decided that it was dangerous for girls to run marathons because it jiggles all their girly bits and maybe they wouldn't be able to have babies or something ridiculous, right? So we weren't allowed, right? You don't get to decide whether I want to run a marathon, but it wasn't approved. You couldn't run in competition, and so it wasn't an appropriate behavior for a female to run long distances, right? We're getting better. In the United States, attitudes are changing. We're much more open to allow children to make their own choices one way or the other. But we're not really fully there. Okay? Title IX helped a lot. Title IX was put into law in 1972, and that has improved participation for girls. It isn't there just for girls, it's there for minority groups. Doesn't matter who the minority is. So boys can now play field hockey, which was traditionally a girls' game, right? But it has really impacted girls' participation in sport in this country. So even with Title IX, when you look at high school girls, less than 50% of high school girls participate on a regular basis in sport. So we're still not there, right? We haven't done enough yet to encourage girls to be physically active and take part in sport. But it's getting better, gradually.
Because they're only given two sports to do, pretty much. Basketball and track.
Exactly.
Volleyball, softball,
Right.
softball, soccer.
There's lots of sports. We don't encourage them to do them because we encourage them to learn how to cook or how to sew. Right? When we look at play behaviors, we see that boys are often encouraged to participate in rough and tumble play, or if they start rough and tumble play, we let them get on with it. We don't interfere. If girls try to participate in rough and tumble play, mummy or teacher jumps in very quickly and says, no, 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 you can't do that, girls don't hit each other,
See, but I feel like girls like.
So, very annoying. What do we call girls who want to climb trees?
Tomboys.
Tomboy. Why do I have to be a boy? Because I want to climb a tree.
Sorry, that's what y'all call them.
Why does it make me a boy? I want to climb a tree, it's fun. Because it's not girly, right? It's ridiculous. Right, but do you see what I mean? It's not deliberate. We don't, as parents or teachers or family members or society, deliberately do these things. But everybody calls a girl who climbs tree a tomboy. It's just part of the language, right? We just do it. We don't mean anything unpleasant by it, but the picture that it creates is that I'm not being pretty, I'm not being girly, I'm not... What if mum only puts me in dresses? And then I try to climb the tree. Then what is going to happen? Right? You can't climb that tree, you'll show all the boys your knickers. Who the heck cares? But, right? So we change what the girls, you guys, right? The boys were all laughing, girls, right? But you're all sitting there going, right? So we may not give girls the possibility of developing their full potential for movement because we direct them away from certain activities. So typically, when we're looking at the literature here, we're talking about not allowing girls to do certain things that they, physiologically, there's no reason to stop them from doing, right? However, you do want to think about the flip side. It also means that maybe we tell the boys they have to play football when actually what they would like to do is go and learn tap dancing.
Yeah.
Right?
That feet work on point.
So, I'm going to show you some pictures, and I want you to tell me whether this picture is acceptable or not acceptable to you. Right? So just shout it out. Is it okay or is it not okay for you? Right? Comfortably. Okay? You ready?
Can y'all see that right?
Should we do it again?
Oh, I didn't even see it.
All right. Ready? Okay or not okay?
Woo! Oh, that's, I mean, if that's what she wants to do, then that's what she wants to do.
Disgusting.
That's not okay.
No, not the politically correct answer. What do you feel? Okay or not okay?
That's not
Okay. All right.
I didn't see it on camera.
Okay or not okay?
Okay.
Miss, why they keep going away so fast?
That's okay.
Oh, sorry.
That's just the other one. She
Next one. Okay or not okay?
Okay.
Yeah,
Accept
Okay,
it.
right? All right, so it's not okay for the girl to be strong, big, muscly, but it's okay for her to be pretty and pink. All right, let's have a look at the boys. Okay or not okay?
What is she doing?
Sure.
Ballet? Okay or not okay?
Okay.
Oh, you guys are good.
Sure.
Cat, dance, but not ballet.
Sure, that's acceptable.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So,
Underneath a beast.
looking at the guy doing ballet maybe makes us more uncomfortable than looking at the guy in the football outfit. All right? And yet, when you measure fitness levels, ballet dancers are fitter than the majority of athletes. Almost every athlete out there cannot hold their own overall with a ballet dancer. So if I'm looking at strength, speed, flexibility, endurance, ballet dancers beat football out of the park.
What about calisthenics? Bar master.
So, and yet we might not be okay with letting our son go and take ballet class.
Another
influences that we're looking at here, all right? So when we consider ourselves, right? When I think about what my role in society is, there are three elements that have played a part in my perception of my role, right? Who do I think I am within society? And those three elements are socializing agents, social situations, and personal attributes. So, socializing agents, significant others, people who are influential over choices that I make. Or when we're young, choices, I don't get to make the choice, they make the choice for me, all right? So, family members, so that could be my parents, it could be my siblings, it could be a cousin. Okay? Peer group. So as we get a bit older, the peer group becomes a very important influence on choices that we make. So particularly when we're teenagers, if you can think back, it wasn't that long ago for you guys, right? When you're a teenager, do you listen to mum and dad, or do you listen to your best friend?
Mom and dad.
Ooh, Matt Carr, I'm not sure I believe that's
Hey,
true.
Liz, if you meet my mom, you'll see why I said that. That's what I say, my friend.
Alright, so as teenagers, one of the reasons I never had kids, right, because they're okay when they're little, but I don't want to deal with the teenagers. As teenagers, parents are tearing their hair out because they just will not do as they're told, right? They won't get out of bed when they're told to get out of bed, they won't brush their hair, they won't wear the clothes you want them to wear, they won't do their homework because they're too busy playing a video, right? Teenagers are just a nightmare. Anybody who can get through that without killing one is a good person.
Yeah, I don't think you need any kids.
Coaches, I don't need any kids. Coaches are a very big, significant other for people that take part in sport. So as the coach, you have a hugely influential role over what the kinds of behaviors that individual develops, not just motorically, I mean that's what we're looking at right now, but also the manners, the way they behave, the foods they choose, right? You as a coach are a huge influence over your athletes. And teachers, so for us PE teachers, if I'm going to be a PE teacher, then I'm going to have a big influence on people who are in my PE class. Do I teach them to play field hockey? Do I teach them to play basketball? Do we work on dribbling skills? Do we work on soccer? Do we work on learning how to spin a football? Right? What experiences do we do? Some dance? What experiences, what movement opportunities do I provide people in my classroom? Right? The second idea here is your social situation. So the places that socialization takes place, right? So that could be school. Where do we play games? Where do we play? Where do we have access to toys? So it could be school, on the playground, could be at home, out in the street in your community, could be on the field if you've got the opportunity to go and be in an organised sport. Right? So the social situation also impacts who I learn I am within society. You think about them. When we play on the playground, even with the little kids, who's influencing who on the playground? What is influencing them on the playground? What kinds of games do they get to play? And then always individual constraints. My own personality. What are my likes, dislikes? What do I have? Strong abilities to do. Can I jump well? Can I run fast? Do I catch? Can I go upside down? Right? So I learn to perceive my motor capabilities. How good how good am I at moving? Okay. If I don't think I'm very good at moving, then my role may not be a PE teacher or a coach. Okay, so we just check. We're doing this chapter again on Monday, right?
We're missing the snow.
We are. Go! Snow, go! See you Monday. Have a